again about psychedelics, some people listening may wondering what the heck we're chattering about because they associate psychedelics with being hippies and dropping acid and tripping out all the time. And we have to emphasize that although psychedelic healing has been a part of plant healing, has been a part of human experience for thousands of years, it can also be misused. So it very much depends on context and intention and guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's suggesting that take this substance and you'll be healed. But however, there's a lot of experience that in the right context, with the right guidance, with the proper intention, a lot of people have had beneficial and even life-altering and even life-saving experiences with psychedelics.
And you've seen those firsthand. And I think that's also important too. When people talk about MDMA healing trauma, no one's proven that MDMA heals trauma. What we've proven is that MDMA assisted psychotherapy has
Right.
healed trauma. You know, using this as a tool to get into those deeper states with a skilled both substance and practitioner
Right.
combining to release that, you know,
Absolutely.
I think is a very powerful means. Ayahuasca though, I'm curious because it seems to almost have its own self-guided practitioner in. It seems, in my experiences, to you feel guided by, and sometimes you can call that the force of ayahuasca, Mother Ayahuasca, but it feels like an entity itself, almost like a guidance counselor who's taking you on that journey, so that you can have these experiences almost unguided. I mean, you're in the context, the set and setting has to be right, the container has to be right, the medicine, all of that, but do you, when you're, you know, working with people with ayahuasca, do you let the ayahuasca work in that kind of unguided manner, or do you act as kind of another secondary guide to help guide people through to their issues?
Well, it's interesting what you say. 3 weeks ago, I conducted a healing session with a highly traumatized individual using not MDMA but something similar to it.
Mm-hmm.
And my colleague and I took a little bit of it just so that we could be on the same wavelength. The person took the therapeutic amount. And it was a process of psychotherapy under the impact of this particular substance. It was extraordinarily powerful to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of processing of trauma that took place and the amount of reconnecting with self that took place within a 6-7 hour period was beyond what it would take years in traditional psychotherapy to achieve. But there was no sense of presence there other than those of us in the room and the substance that we had all partly ingested. With ayahuasca, with the plant medicines, people often talk about the sense of presence being there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an ayahuasquero. I don't lead ceremonies. I don't chant. I don't.
Sing the Icaros.
I don't sing the Icaros, the songs. I don't do the energetic healing. I facilitate it beforehand and afterwards, but during ceremony, I'm just a silent participant. And participants often, and the ayahuasqueros I work with, the curanderos I work with, they'll talk about ayahuasca as a presence, as a teacher, as a madre, as a mother, as a grandmother. And participants often experience that. Now, however, the presence is evoked by the chanting.
Mm-hmm.
The presence is evoked by the ceremony. So I don't believe that somebody sitting on their own in a room by themselves, where there's no practiced and highly experienced shamanic guidance, would have the same experience as they would in a ceremonial context, where that specific chanting and energetic work is available. Because the ayahuasqueros I work with, the curanderos, the people who lead the ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
they don't just sing a playlist of songs randomly. They'll know what to chant to whom at what particular time, based on what kind of energies they're reading that person emanating at that moment, and they're astonishingly accurate. And the participants afterwards will say, well, just when I such and such, they chanted to me, and then something happened. So there's a dynamic interaction between the uh, effect of the plant inside that person's individual organism and the context in which it's taking place.
Sure.
So, would the entity show up for some people if they just did it on their own? Probably it would, but not nearly as beneficially